this is quite possibly the shortest video I have ever made because I have not read that many books since the start of the year. Typically by the 31st of March I would have read like 20-ish books. But also, may I just add in there, I do have a social life. I just read every night before I go to bed, no matter what time it is. And anyway, this month though, I've done a lot of socializing. I mean, not month, this year so far, I've done a lot of socializing. So, let's go on Goodreads. It is raining outside and the vibes are just immaculate. When you're in your room and it's raining, it just hits different. I have read 5 whole books. So, let's start it off with Believe Me, which I read in January, which is the final novella of the Shatter Me series. And that like finished off the Shatter Me series for me. Then the next book was called Not Pretending Anymore by Penelope Ward. And that book is really strange because it's one of the books that I rated 5 stars when I first read it. I would put the cover up, but I'm not going to do that because the cover is horrible and I don't want to scar your eyeballs. I have made the executive decision that shirtless men should not be on covers. Yeah, authors, can we please stop doing that? No one wants to have that on display in their bedroom. Thank you very much. Not Pretending Anymore. It is about a person, can't remember her name, even though I've read the book twice. She needs a roommate, and then this guy, he needs a roommate and he needs a room to stay in, so then he becomes her roommate. Crazy stuff. But it's really cute the way he convinces her. I love the first chapter, like it really like hooks you in. So yes, it is a roommate romance, but it's kind of like fake dating as well, because they both then like fake date each other to make other people jealous. It's that real like stereotypical like story. But then we find out towards the end of the book when she's trying to make things work with him, but he's kind of like, no, like you're better than me and blah blah blah, I don't deserve you and all that stuff. Well, we then realize that he has like some problems up here that he is not dealing with, and he has not been open with her. He has not told her of these problems, and anyway, that's then a situation that occurs throughout the book that makes it slightly more interesting than your regular roommate romance with fake dating trope. Not Pretending Anymore. I gave it a 5 stars the first time I read it, but also the first time I read it I was like 15 and I gave most books 5 stars. Now I am 18, I reread it and I can't remember how many stars I gave it, but I reckon like 3.5 is where it's at. I gave it a 3 stars. So it's enjoyable. I read it twice, so obviously I enjoyed it the first time. And I did enjoy it the second time. I just don't think that the writing was anything like absolutely fabulous, or like it was a book that like you need to read before you die, you know? 3rd book of the year, Everything. I'll grab it. Okay, this is the 3rd book that I read. You've probably heard of this book. I read this in year 8, I think, or year 7, one of them, when I was 12 or 13. I loved it. It was one of the books that really got me into reading romance, because I've always been a reader, but then I read like this and Twilight in the same kind of year and it got me hooked. And I just don't think this book is as good as I once thought it was. It was enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but it's very YA. It's very like a cutesy romance. I prefer the movie now, but also this book, when the first time I read it, it made me feel some sort of way. It was crazy. I think the second time going into it, like I knew the story, I've seen the movie, so I kind of already knew what to expect, so then I tended to like just kind of skim a little bit and like, okay, I've already read this part, like let's just get through it fast, you know? So I didn't enjoy it as much, but you know, I feel like that's what happens, like books kind of are amazing at one point in your life and then they potentially aren't as great at another point in your life. Also, don't mind the way I look like I'm in a cocoon right now. It is kind of cold, so yeah, we're in a cocoon. Also, my hair is very frizzy today. Moving on. This book, if you have watched my my book video about like my 5-star reads, you would see that this book is in it. It's called Stay With Me. It's part of a trilogy. I've started reading this next book, but yeah, I only got a little bit into the next book and then I stopped because I wanted to start reading some fantasy books. But I'm going to get back to it because I loved this book. I don't think it was like a 5 out of 5. Like, I think it was probably one of those books where you read it and then like you think that it's a 5-star read like for a few weeks after you've read it, and then you think about it and you're like, I don't really feel like rereading it right this second, but like it is still really good. Like, it's probably like a 4.8 stars, you know, to be very specific. Good, not the greatest. I do recommend though for people to read. I'm not gonna explain what this book is about because it is in my other video, the explanation, but very, very briefly, it's basically these two people who fall in love in like a psych ward. That is kind of the gist of it, and lots of situations happen, and yeah, very interesting book. And then finally, Daisy Jones and the Six. So this is a book that I have done a reading vlog on, and right now I'm uploading a video of me like comparing the book to the movie, to the TV show, not movie. Yeah, and I really thoroughly like this book. Best book I've read all year, 5 out of 5 stars. And then I'm currently in the process of reading Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief. I am 217 pages into it, and there is 368 pages in this book, I think. So most of the way through. That's about it. These are all of the books that I have read throughout this whole year so far, January, February, March. In April, I'm going to make a video, I think, talking about like my TBR. So if anyone who doesn't know what TBR is, to be read, the books that I am going to be reading hopefully in April. Okay, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.